Welcome to the Regular Joe's podcast. I'm Dave Pisani.
I'm Barry Kay.
And I'm Todd Pleasant.
Okay, people, that was a lot of technical difficulty, but we have a special show for you tonight, this week. Number 350. Todd decided it was a special. No, Barry decided it was a special number.
Well, I suggested that maybe it might be a special number, and then we said, all right, let's try to do something different. So I think tonight qualifies as something different.
350 of anything is special. So what we're doing is we've gathered together some of our longtime collecting friends, and we're going to talk about collecting, collecting later in your collecting career, not the early days, because we all met in the G.I. Joe world. So I'll introduce everybody. And then
before you do, I just want to say, and I sent this picture to Dave and Todd earlier in the week, but some of the guys that we've brought together tonight were actually there the night that we talked about and ultimately decided that we should do a podcast. So I've got the photo.
I would go beyond that. I would say this was probably one person's initial idea that has spawned 350 episodes. And this particular one person, who I give credit for this to, came up with a lot of good ideas that almost got us in a lot of trouble. So anyways, I'm just saying.
We'll get to that, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, so I actually have that photo. I'll send it to all of you guys. But a lot of you guys were there the night that inspired this show. So.
And now we've wasted 8 years of our life. So we blame you, Steve Stovall, from Louisville, Kentucky. Is that correct, Steve?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
It was his idea. We blame him. Also, we have...
I don't take blame for that.
Yeah, well, we'd give you some of the royalties, but we're actually in the
We're still waiting for them to come in.
Yeah, we're still waiting for the
I'm afraid I'd get hate mail.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you. Sean Huckster from, where are you? Somewhere in Nova Scotia, right?
No, I'm in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Originally from Nova Scotia.
No, originally from Newfoundland. I moved here 25 years ago, almost 24 years ago.
There you go. Somewhere
really
not
two
in
places in Canada that begin with N, so you know.
Nobody ever gets it right, and they don't pronounce it right either.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jim Bush from Kansas City, Kansas, right?
The Kansas suburbs.
Oh, okay.
It's complicated.
We've all been to your house.
Yeah,
we've been to your house, and we've been to Kansas City twice that I know of. And
that was in Missouri, the place.
See, I was going to say, so we've been to. We've actually
been to both states.
We've been to Kansas,
which is why it's
twice.
Complicated.
Yeah, it's.
But Todd and I had one of the best meals we've ever had in Kansas City.
We talk about that often.
Yeah, we've talked about that before
all the time.
And the infamous Darryl DePriest, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, everybody.
Formerly of San Diego, Rochester, San Diego, Providence, and Chattanooga.
Yeah,
that's right.
So we've got
now coming to you from a hidden location.
Yeah. So we've got a cross section of these are the people we've hung out with. Some definitely 20 years. I think Sean came in a little later in our G.I. Joe collecting gatherings, but
online though.
Yeah,
I think we met Sean online through some of the various online forums, and then eventually got to meet him in person, and have done so many times since. But yeah, I mean, most of us met, and we've said before on the show many times that Darryl has introduced Dave, Todd, and I, and possibly might have introduced us to Jim and Steve. Everybody kind of gravitated and rotated around Darryl for a little while there, and he brought a lot of people together. So. That was 1999 G.I. Joe convention. So
he had the proofs for his book.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's right. That's right. At that show, the Washington show, if I recall, guys.
Yeah,
the
it was
Washington
99.
G.I. Joe show, 99. I think I had the proofs, and I was inviting all you guys, my good friends from. We had a secret Facebook group, right?
Yep.
That's
correct. Wait, no, Yahoo group.
It was way before Facebook.
I think it was even before Yahoo group. It was what was before Yahoo?
GeoCities.
It was an email group, wasn't it?
GeoCities
It was through Yahoo email.
Wasn't it GeoCities?
No, it wasn't GeoCities, but it was before Yahoo was when the first one folded. But anyways,
yeah. So we had that secret group, and we used to talk. That was a great group. It was everybody who is like-minded in their love for the adventure team. And I wanted to bring those proofs and, show it to you guys, because you guys were, and still are my tribe, right? At the time. So I remember those, thanks for bringing that up, Jim, bringing those proofs to that show. And I just wanted to show you guys, how the book was progressing. And then the introductions, I think, kind of almost took care of themselves. You guys hit it off right away.
It was actually a good thing you brought those proofs, because Jim would never have gotten out of the mosh pit otherwise.
The old mosh pit.
I found that book at Barnes & Noble, and that's what got me into collecting again after many, many years. It's all you, Daryl.
Yep.
Thanks, Sean.
It's your damn fault.
And that's a collector's item in its own now.
It is
out of print for a while, right, Daryl?
That's right.
I know people are paying a premium for that now on eBay.
That's right.
I'm up to 5 copies of the book now.
I sent one to Randall
really?
Wall last year.
Seriously, Jim.
Whenever I see one cheap, I pick it up.
I did too. Yeah.
I had 3. I gave one to a friend. I think I have 2. But definitely something.
I've got a second that's hermetically sealed. In the
Mine
fireproof vault.
Mine is worn and torn and signed by Daryl, so it holds a special place on the shelf.
Well, to show how far back it goes, it was signed to me and my one son, who I only had one son at the time.
Oh, that is a while ago.
Yep.
So who's the oldest? Brandon?
Brandon, it's signed to me and Brandon.
That's right.
Yeah, well, he must have just been born. This was almost 21 years ago now.
Yeah, and he's going to be 22 in December. Yeah. So he was a little one.
Crazy.
I'm glad he's become a collector.
Oh yeah, he could care less about any of this, but it's good that his name's signed in the book. I'm glad I have a second copy. Next time I see you, I'm going to bring my second copy and have you sign it just to me. Screw that kid.
To Barry, the only one that matters.
So, we mentioned, we were all G.I. Joe collectors. Not that we still are. I think everyone's got their collection pretty much. Some bigger, some probably all of us bigger than it was.
Upsized, but yeah.
Yeah. But, the conventions sort of ended, is it 3 years ago now? I don't even know.
2018, was that the last one?
I think so.
So 2-3 years ago. But, again, you collect something very specific or fairly specific like G.I. Joe. Once you get a lot, there's not as much to buy. So either you stop, which none of us have ever done, and you just keep finding other things to collect. So
broaden your horizons, as it would be.
Let's go around. I no one's prepared with answers for any of these questions, but you should know. Let's just go around and, other than G.I. Joe, name 2, 3, a dozen, half a dozen things that you do collect. Is that okay for everybody? Does anyone need any time to think? I'm going to hit you up first, Jim. What do you got?
Besides the Joes, I have started collecting the 70s. I have a spreadsheet with every action figure line from the 70s, and it's my goal to get at least one figure from each of those lines.
Ooh, I like that.
I really started hard on that a couple years ago, and I'm about 80% of the way there, and I'm getting down to the really obscure stuff. And
like what? Throw a couple obscure things at us.
Let me see. MEGO made a line of 3 3/4-inch figures called CB McCall.
Oh, yeah, sure.
During the CB radio craze. Those things.
Wow.
The trucks are easier to find than the figures.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And now, are you looking specifically for figures or just something from the thing?
I'm trying to find a figure whenever I can. So, that's kind of. So I'm trying to find a figure, and since I'm kind of a cheapskate, it takes some time to find one at the price I'm willing to pay. But those things just rarely turn up on eBay, period.
Interesting.
There's some great lines in the 70s stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Lone Ranger was one of the ones that I always found bits and pieces, and I may have owned 1 or 2 and sold them off that came with collections. But there's just a lot of
the 9-inch ones?
Yeah.
They're like 8-inch.
That was a deep line too. With a lot of catalog exclusives and stuff, and there's a lot of stuff there that people don't think of. This 70s, like I said, is pretty broad.
Yeah.
What are you using for reference? Are you using those plaid stallions or whatever? Or?
I started off with John Marshall's 70s book.
Oh, okay.
And just looked at everything in there, and then as I've kind of expanded and got tied in with the plaid stallions guys, I started finding things I didn't know existed. I've got Staroid Raiders, like this guy.
Oh, awesome.
I love those.
Which is a MEGO size. And they kind of came out around the time Star Wars came out, and everybody was trying to cash in on that whole alien thing. And
it's a MEGO knockoff, right, Jim?
Yes,
I mean, that's not by MEGO.
No, it's a MEGO knockoff.
So Jim, they did them in 3 3/4 too, didn't they?
Yes, they did. I don't have one of those yet because once again I'm a cheap SOB and don't want to pay for one. So, but things like that. And there's Butch and Sundance, which was a Kenner line in 78, 79. Those were very hard to find.
Weren't those also 3 3/4? And
yes, they were. Those were just 3 3/4.
Oh, okay.
There was another Western line by Excel called Legends of the West that had, and they were kind of a MEGO size. They had a little smaller thing that were 3 3/4, and then they sold that line to Empire, and they retooled the legs, and Legends of the West became a line that actually lingered for 5 or 6 years. So I just love getting into the history and the details of some of this stuff.
That's cool.
Another one I ran into every once in a while was that Safari people, the Safari line. It was like, were they marks? But they were like marks type bodies with some clothes.
Yes, the Mark Safari, yeah.
Yep.
That's
I
another
think the
one.
way you're doing it, Jim, the fact that you're kind of putting boundaries on it and saying there's a limit to what you'll spend on it and you want it with a figure makes it kind of more fun in a way, because if you just said, all right, I just want them, you could have probably gotten everything you wanted much faster, but it'd be less fun.
Yeah. I also like the kind of representative figure of the line instead of like trying to get all of them.
Yes. There's a lot of, I mean, even getting into MEGO, there's like 10 or 12 different lines of MEGO alone. You got the superheroes, Planet of the Apes. You got Western, you got pirates, you got knights.
There's little Rascals figures from MEGO. Like,
oh my God, yes.
Crazy things that you would never realize.
Love Boat. Right?
Yeah, Love Boat.
Happy Days.
Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley.
I desperately need an Isaac the Bartender figure. I bought
we all
one
do.
of those cardboard Star Wars cantinas from like the Power Force. I want to set that up with all the 3 3/4 inch guys. I need Isaac.
You definitely need Isaac.
That's great.
That's funny. And okay, so that's toys. We know you collect drums, right?
Yes, which are sitting right in front of me, but you can't see them.
I
collect. I'm a very bad drummer from a long time ago, but what I'm collecting are Vistalites, Ludwig Vistalites, which were made out of acrylic, and they're transparent. Most of them. There's some translucent or some solid colors as well, but I've been trying to pick up one drum in every color, and green is hard because they only made it a couple years and stopped selling it. So
really, anyone out there has green Vistalites, let us know. Cool. Anything else?
Otherwise, I just collect whatever makes me happy. I have some Funkos. I have a Hot Toys figure that I'm afraid to set up because it's
a Hot Toys figure.
Yes.
Hear that, Todd? A Hot Toys figure.
Hot Toys figure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do like the Mezco 112 stuff, so I pick up characters.
That is nice stuff.
For the price, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, when we started doing this show, I had a Hot Toys figure too.
I probably had one or one. I did. Maybe two.
True.
Dad, what's happened?
Steve, I was going to go to you next. Are you okay technically?
I think I'm back in. It goes out every now and then.
All right. Well, while you're in, so what's your deal? We know you're doing a lot of different stuff. What are you into?
Well, it's funny. After you get all the G.I. Joe stuff and you go through that and you look for something else, you kind of go back to other things that you had as a kid, and one of them was MEGO, and I'd picked up some of the MEGO Planet of the Apes, and I said, I'll just get a couple, and then you can't just get a couple of apes.
Now I think you have all of them, right? You have like everyone that ever existed.
And so every so often I will set it up and have a whole ape on a tape. I guess one of the other things I got into was Super Joe, which was
yes, we know that very well.
Okay, am I back in now? Or
yes, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the Universal Monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He said Universal Monsters for those.
He did.
He's cutting out a bit.
Super Joe, for listeners who don't know, was kind of the last very last G.I. Joe line from the 70s. It's a smaller figure that most people used to like malign, and now there's like a small subgroup of people that are coming up that just want to collect it, and it's really hard because they fall apart. They're really hard to get in, still intact. I mean, they're just the joints in the hands disintegrate.
I have one in the package, and the hands are just like powder.
Yeah,
but the gear was so well designed and so cool.
It was very cool. It was very cool, but it was also some like blatant repurposing of 12-inch stuff.
Oh yeah,
it was not scaled stuff to these guys.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll get back to Steve because he's having technical issues.
Difficulties.
Sean, what about you?
Oh God. So I started with the GI. Well, actually, before I started collecting the GI Joes and met you guys, I started with the Star Wars Galoob Action Fleet vehicles, and then I got to really love the Action Fleet, and I happened upon 3 Aliens ones, which almost nobody has. So those were cool. But let me see some other things: Iron Giant, Thunderbirds, Blade Runner, Space 1999. I also love mid-century modern stuff, like even kitchenware. Like the Blade Runner glass with the rings is from a mid-century or a little bit earlier drinks set, and I got that set. And let's see, of course, Doctor Who. Oddly enough, Infocom games. These are games that were done in the 80s. I have every single one, I believe. Most of them were signed by the authors because I met them and know them now. But
what exactly are those?
So those were the text adventures. So you're everyone knows Zork, but there are so many more. They've done like 20 or 30, and I've got every one of them. And played every
what
one
is
of them.
it on? It's on a floppy disk or something?
Yeah. So they came on floppy disks. But the wonderful thing about Infocom games is they invented an interpreter, and then the interpreter can be produced for every machine that was available at the time, but the data was independent. Every computer practically could play all these games. So your Commodores, your Apples, PCs, Amigas, everything could play these games because they were very clever about it. And it was all text and packaged really well with some really cool stuff that made you immerse you into the stories. And like, for example, Wishbringer had this glow-in-the-dark stone that was your standard-looking green glow-in-the-dark stone, but when you lit it, it was purple. It glowed purple and just blew you away. And they got really well known for The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it came with like a little envelope, which was a completely empty Ziploc bag, which was the Invisible Space Fleet from the books, and a pocket fluff, which was just a piece of cotton wool. But these little things, their detective stories had little matchbooks and cigarette butts, and it was just incredibly immersive stuff, and I loved it. And I've written my own text adventures since, but that I was really big on back in the day, and I still try to collect those. And I still have all my originals. So if I may have lost some, but I hope not. I had them all signed. It was great.
Cool. That's interesting. That's different.
I touched on a bunch of stuff in there, but I've got
I think
way too many things.
I think I still have a couple of those games, especially Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah, that's one of the most popular next to Zork is the Hitchhiker's Guide. But Planetfall was the one that got a lot of acclaim. You are stranded on a planet, and you find this little robot, and the robot kind of follows you around, and that character became famous throughout computer gaming.
Well, Daryl, we know what you've done, or what you can you just. It'd be easier for you to discuss what you haven't collected.
That's right. There's too many things I like, but like Jim, a lot of my nostalgic interests are rooted in the 70s. So I collect, and a lot of the things that I collect, I got maybe secondhand in the 70s because I was, my parents were traders at a swap meet, a flea market. So I kind of grew up buying and selling at a flea market. So some of the things I'm super interested in are comic books, Viewmaster reels. If everybody remembers those ancient 3D Viewmaster reels, wacky packages is another thing I'm interested in. And I grew up in Southern California, so Disneyland is a real obsession of mine.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things that vie for G.I. Joe and Star Wars for my attention. I think I'm so kind of anal retentive when it comes to my collecting that I keep a list of all of what I need for each of the collections to make sure I'm complete, like what things I'm still looking for. And then I keep a list of the lists of the things I need. So that's actually true. It's so sad.
All right, but do you also have lists of what you have, or do you only list what you need?
No, I do have lists of what I have. So G.I. Joe, is one of those things where now I've got a list of what I have, and I just sent that off to our friend Ace, just yesterday, so he can keep a lookout for the things I need. So he knows what I have, and so I'm very interested in documenting at this point in my career, kind of documenting collections, documenting variations, especially of things that exist, and kind of that's what I've kind of set my mind to, is now that I'm a completist, so in so many of my collections I have everything. In those where there's maybe a knowledge gap between what exists and what people should collect, my kind of goal is to fill that knowledge gap. So it's to write and to document and build databases, on collectibles and things like that. On things like wacky packages, I'm not the foremost expert. Other people have paved that path. Yeah. I'm kind of following, but I want to be complete. So other people have done the work. I don't need to reproduce that. But things like, Disney World or Disneyland postcards, things like that, I'm taking it upon myself to I have to build the databases and eventually educate people and maybe, write future books on that.
A thing like postcards has got to be I bet there was a lot. I mean, how would you even know? How would you even begin to know?
Yeah, I mean, they've
what there all is.
Refresh that stuff all the time, right?
Well, there's a in terms of Disneyland postcards, there's a phenomenal book out there called The Nickel Tour that was done by two Imagineers who had access to the Disney archives. They basically were able to kind of put together a phenomenal book based on what existed. But it was all, let me tell you, so that's the kind of canonical book on Disneyland postcards, but it was all built around a database built by collectors. So, collectors who go really deep into a subject provide invaluable knowledge to us, people who do collect things, because they pioneer paths. It's a very valuable service. They dive deep into something. So, but that hasn't been done for Disney World postcards, and I'm hoping to do that. But the only way to really be complete at that is to probably work with the Disney archives to really dive into their database and find out what they have, what they document, and then complement that with the work of collectors who build.
I was going to say, I imagine that even if you've got an enormous collection of that yourself, until you get it out there, what it is that you have, and have other people start comparing against it, you may find that there's a ton of stuff that you didn't even know about.
Yeah. Exactly, Barry. And that describes a really unique dynamic in collecting, which is for the first, X number of years of you being a collector, you're kind of collecting in private, right? Because you don't want other people to know what the real rarities are. You're trying to get that. And then after you turn a corner, maybe a certain corner, you feel like, okay, I've built my collection. Now it's time to collaborate. And I found this over several things that I collect, that this pattern kind of establishes itself, which is, at first you're building knowledge and then you're sharing knowledge, right? And you can only share knowledge with other people who have that like-minded point of view like you have. And in some cases, like the Disney archives, that can help you complete things, although you'd probably be surprised at what Disney doesn't have. Or in the case of, I had very firsthand knowledge of this, what Hasbro doesn't have in their archives or direct knowledge of, and in many cases, like, Hasbro is a very forward-looking company. They care very little about the past. The archival databases are not something that they're really interested in spending any time on, at all. So, it really comes down to collectors like us who have deep knowledge about a subject, who are willing to kind of do the work to research it and build knowledge and test that against, with other collectors, and then eventually publish that to get it out to the world. So,
well, it's interesting too, because there are some, and it maybe also varies by type of things that you're collecting, or also just the types of collectors. But we've talked about it a little bit, and we've talked about it when we've had our buddy Tom Spina on. Like, movie prop collecting is a good example. A lot of the people that collect that stuff, it's very expensive, it's very high end, and they don't want people to know what they have. They don't talk about it, they don't show it, they don't display it, and it really kind of, once it goes into the private collection, it just disappears.
That's
but then there
hard
are
too,
other
because
people.
the ownership of some of that stuff is dubious.
For some of it, but I think a lot of it also just has to do with that some of those guys are super private about what they have because it's so valuable. Even if it's not an ownership thing, it's more just the value of it.
I think we found early on in going to shows and stuff, it was those people, and there's a lot of them, who would go to the show, all they care about was buying stuff. They pack it up, they put in their room, in their whatever, their collecting room, their basement, their attic, their mom's, most likely their mom's attic. As opposed to those of us who branched out and got involved and made friends and, you know, shared our knowledge amongst ourselves. And Steve, you created a Super Joe, 3D Super Joe site, right? He's frozen. He says yes, though. He did.
He did do that. We can attest to that.
I think what Daryl said, though, was very astute. There is a certain point that you there's kind of a stage to collecting where you kind of go in, you get your feet wet, you make your initial acquisitions, and then you start to realize that to move forward, you actually need other people. And you need to be part of a network. And I think everybody starts in a vacuum, and the true enjoyment is when you move out of that stage and you get
but a lot of us started in a vacuum too, because we didn't have access to the internet. Right? I mean, it didn't exist. Now it's so much easier. If you choose to connect with fellow collectors, it's at the touch of a computer pad or a phone. Back when we started, the only way to get in touch with people was either like putting ads out in the paper or going to shows and meting people. And there weren't, that many shows back then.
I have collected things for years and not known that other people collected them. You know, it was that kind of thing, because I was the only one who seemed to be looking for something, including Joe back in the day, back in the 90s. So it's, Daryl, one of the things with the postcards, the Disney cards, is I notice it's almost like a subset of postcard collectors are Disney, because like I'll go to Brimfield or a show like this, and there'll be people that have postcards for sale, and they'll be alphabetical except for Disney, which is a separate area, which is a separate section very near the front. It's Disney, and then everything else is alphabetical. So
yeah, that's right. Disney is a separate. They call it topical.
Okay.
So it's a topical thing because there are people who are just looking for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. Next sort of general question, and I know we've probably covered this, or maybe we haven't. Do you remember what the first thing or things you had that you were like, I guess I'm collecting things, or whether you even recognize it as collecting? What would you say that was?
As
Sean?
an adult or back when you were a kid?
As early as you can remember. Sean?
Oh, well, I mean, for me, it started with the Adventure Team G.I. Joes. I got my first Sea Adventurer when I was a kid. I think over the years, next few years, I got a few of them, so I had 3. My cousin moved to Africa for a few years. He was living in Tanzania. He brought back 7 G.I. Joes, and he didn't want them anymore. He gave them to me. At that point, I was a collector, and so
brought them back from Tanzania.
Yeah, he brought them back from Tanzania, and
Wow.
those were the international soldiers ones. So even though I didn't really realize what I had at the time, I had the Russian outfit, the Japanese outfit, this German outfits, and 7 G.I. Joes to put them on, and I combined them with my original Adventure Team. So I had the Adventure Team headquarters and the Jeep, and that's when I guess I wasn't really collecting then, because I was just playing with toys. But not long around the same time, I got into the Marx cowboy figures, so the Johnny West figures, and I had about 10 of those too, including like Jane and Geronimo, and I had the Sears Canadian Ranch, which was all cardboard slotted together, and several of the horses, and I think at that point I realized I had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And
the first time is realizing you have a problem.
Yeah, I mean I think that's when you become a collector, is when you realize you have a problem.
I will say I had a lot of the Marx figures myself, and I think that was more due to like reluctance on the part of my grandmother and my great aunt, who I spent a lot of time with, to buy G.I. Joes. So
now I didn't have a problem with them buying the GI Joes. I also had some big Jim figures too. But at a certain age, when I got to a certain age, my grandmother, I was raised by my grandparents, so my grandmother said, you should give those up. And I think a lot of boys at the time who were playing with dolls went through a similar thing. And she made me pack them all up and give them to cousins who were younger.
Oh, yeah.
And a couple of years later, I went over to their house, and I think I saw a foot sticking up out of the ground, and that was the last piece that remained of the collection I gave them. And,
Oh, gosh.
and at that point, I realized, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
And But when I started collecting,
I can remember
again,
probably 73, 74, G.I. Joe being a tough sell with certain people and not really realizing what that meant and what the issue was with that. And I will say it was for a reason that you might not think. It wasn't the war thing. I remember my grandmother specifically saying she would not buy me any hippie dolls.
it was the beards. It was the
beards.
Really?
Oh yeah, my grandmother was just
not
a big hippie fan, and so which is why. What's my favorite Adventure Team member?
Man of Action.
Man of Action. I never had a problem getting Man of Action or Mike Power.
I would have thought Counterculture.
Getting those hippie dolls was past my grandmother was tough.
So is that
I
how
get
the
a lot of Marx figures because of that. It was always.
Is that how the Counterculture Joe came about?
Yeah, exactly.
No. None of us had anything to do with that one. We actually fought against that one.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's not go. Steve, while you're still with us, the question at hand is: what is the first thing you realize you are a collector?
I think back in the day it was probably sports cards, like baseball cards and football cards, and then like movie cards for Star Wars and stuff like that when they came out. It was the first things that I really collected. And then we always had GI Joes, we had Marx figures and MEGOs, but I don't think we ever tried to complete all those. The first things trying to complete were probably trading cards.
Yeah. Interesting.
Which oddly enough, I really, I've completely gotten out of sports trading cards and only have a small couple of collections of things like easy cheap sets to get, like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Buck Rogers and some stuff like that, but not really a whole lot of stuff in the trading cards.
Yeah.
But I've more than made up for that in other things.
I'm sure. Jim, what about you?
This is a good story. The first thing I really remember collecting, and this would have been like 1971, 72, so I was 6 or 7 years old, were Coca-Cola bottle caps that had football team helmets on the inside label.
Yeah. Oh my God, I remember that. My brother had those.
Yeah.
Yes, yep. And one day, and I may still have the box somewhere that these are in, but one day we were at the grocery store, and remember back then where you returned your bottles and got the deposit back and all that stuff? I was going through the bin there trying to find caps that I did not have, and my mom got so mad at me for messing with those bottle caps. So that was the first thing I ever really collected, trying to get all of. And yeah, then I was into baseball cards. I don't really consider the toys so much of a collecting thing. I guess that's not really what I was about then, but definitely baseball cards, top starting 74, 75, 76, 77. I was very much into that. And then I got into junior high, and all that stuff wasn't cool anymore.
Yeah. Daryl, I'm afraid to ask.
So the first time might have been, following what Jim said, Wonder Bread used to have these like superhero stickers and Battlestar Galactica stickers and all that stuff in the bread. I remember going into the store, opening the loaves of bread, putting my hand in to get the stickers, and a store person came by and said, "Wait, what are you doing?" And I was like maybe, 10, 11 years old. Okay. And I'm like, I didn't think I didn't think I was contaminating the bread. I'm like, I had to have that sticker. So that was
in our house, you had a rule. The bread actually got moved to a high shelf because I had stuffed my little arm, which is never that little, down into the bottom of that because it was at the end.
Yeah,
that was at the end.
You did the same thing
inside a loaf of bread so many times, trying to fish out that sticker, and everybody else was eating toast that was kind of C-shaped. The bread got moved to another place, and I was handed the stickers. I was not. It was like,
Oh, so there you go. So thanks, Wonder Bread.
Thanks, Wonder Bread. But boy, you're right.
I
God, I can remember Super Friends.
You
Super
made us
Friends.
Collectors.
There were a bunch of those.
Dave, you don't remember the Star Wars cards in the Wonder Bread? Because they did
Oh,
them
yeah.
too.
The Star Wars cards. Yep. That was it.
I don't. Maybe we didn't need Wonder Bread. I don't know.
Do you remember Coca-Cola Star Wars collecting, where the caps had the Star Wars figures and you had to pair them up and win prizes? R2-D2 with 3PO.
No, don't remember.
Maybe
that
this
at
was
all.
just. This may have
I
been.
think that
just
was 97. I think that was.
No. This was 77 or 78. Not long after Star Wars came out.
Really? I don't even know these.
As I talk about it, it may be just it was in Canada, which is really weird because what happened is the cans had you had to like take your can opener and open the bottom of the can to get the can out.
Jesus.
And printed on the bottom of the can was one of the characters, and I think it was maybe 8 characters. And underneath the pop-top caps were also these characters. If you paired any two up, there was a specific pairing. You could take them and get like certain prizes, free Coke. I think some of them
I don't
were money
remember
prizes.
that.
And some of them were really rare too.
Most,
so that
most
must have been a
things-
Canadian thing. It was really interesting though, and I'm surprised it being Star Wars that nobody down here has heard of that. But
most things in Canada are like Earth 2 in the DC universe. They're like vaguely familiar but strange and parallel.
It's like
yeah, but
it's
this
like,
was,
wait
this
a minute,
was
your-
huge back
your
in the day, and
Superman
this was
is old.
yeah. This would have been 77, the year we moved up to a new house, and the movie came out, and it was a year before I saw it. But before I saw it, I was collecting these bottle caps and can bottoms.
That's it. Today, you'd have a lawsuit for cutting yourself.
Yeah, I was
from
just
opening
thinking
the
that. I
can.
was thinking, boy,
Yeah,
when
but
you
this was
said
a different
pull tab,
time.
it was like, yeah.
No,
wow.
it wasn't the pull tab. It was in the bottom of the can.
No, but what I'm saying is just
Yeah.
that era was like
That's crazy. Barry, what about you? I don't know if we've talked about this on the show or not.
I don't know. You know, I never thought of myself as a collector as a kid. I bought a bunch of comic books, and I had a lot of comic books, and I could not tell you to this day what happened to them. I know I had hundreds of them. They must have gotten thrown away at some point or given away.
But that's the thing. Did you may have just read them as opposed to collecting them?
Well, I read them, but I knew enough to put them in bags and stuff.
Oh,
so
okay.
like I
That's
had
collecting.
them in
Oh,
bags.
that is collecting.
I did some trading cards. I wasn't into sports, but I did collect like the Star Wars cards and Star Trek movie cards and stuff like that. But I would never went nuts about like having to complete a set. I would just buy a couple packs and I'd have the ones I had. And I don't think I really became a collector until I was in my, early 20s, really. And I've talked about it a million times on the show, but it was when I went to my best friend's parents' house. They were moving and they needed to clean out the house. And he was like, hey, why don't you come over? I've got all my old toys. We'll spend the day bagging that stuff up. And, and it was like a fun nostalgia trip. And like 2 days later, I'm like, what the hell did we throw away? Like, why did we get rid of all that stuff? I kind of want all of it right now. And the only thing I had kept that he's like, you can take whatever you want. I kept a couple of Star Trek MEGOs that I thought those were the rarest thing in his basement. Turns out they were pretty worthless, but because they weren't any of the rare ones. It was all the ones that were worth like $10. But we threw away, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of G.I. Joe stuff and Star Wars stuff, and we just threw it all in the garbage. But it literally was within days that I was just like, oh, man, I think I want some of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Todd, what about you?
Me, this is going to sound really odd because I have like maybe 5 or 6 of them. But for me, the first thing I actually can consciously remember collecting was MEGOs. It was the G.I. Joes were like in boxes. There were boxes of G.I. Joes. I had a lot that I kind of inherited from my older brother and stuff like that. And they were things I used and I active played with. I can remember getting MEGO figures and putting them on a shelf and not taking them out of the package for a while, just because I thought they were really cool looking. And then looking for the ones on the back of the MEGO package, some of which you could never find. But I also remember when I played with the MEGOs, being done playing with them, putting them back on the shelf. And I had like so that was probably my first ever like display of things.
Collection
was
of
a
things.
that I was conscious of, because the G.I. Joes were just always around as long as I could remember. The MEGOs were something I would go and pick out, and they were also super cheap. And again, like I said, that was, so I superheroes, Planet of the Apes, and Star Trek. And
Yeah.
and I love those. And I probably played with those a lot less than the Joes.
Yeah, for me, I had Captain Action in probably 68, 69, and Joe's 70. You know, we've talked about that. But those were toys. Those weren't collectibles. I think it certainly was comic books in the earlier 70s. And aside from that, like the Slurpee cups with superheroes on them. I remember going every week because they would change the character every week and making sure you got the newest character and, you know, trading with your friends. I didn't get there this week. Did you get that kind of thing? I still have a lot of them. They're almost, if you were to hold them up, you'd crush them. They're so brittle. But that was definitely the first thing of I need to get the ones as they're coming out. That was the first sort of collecting thing.
Because when I think back to my toys as a kid, for me, it was always, they were just things I played with. I was never like, I remember I had the Enterprise Bridge playset, the MEGO one, and I had all the main characters, but I was never like, oh, I don't have this guy. I've got to get that one to complete the set. It was just, I just played with whatever I had.
The other thing with the, and I probably played with that bridge set a ton. I played one of the toys that I played the most with, probably the play set I played the most with, and because I never actually had an Adventure Team headquarters, but my cousin did, but I didn't. There's a lot of envy there. But I can remember buying multiple Star Trek figures and putting the uniform, swapping heads, and making everyone crew members. So, so you know, I had Rubel Bruce Wayne was a crew member. Superman was a crew member. You know, so I had like 11 crew members, and I loved buying Mr. Scott figures because I totally ignore the wrist the ranking. I always had like a fleet of like 5 expendable red shirt guys, and they died badly.
Jim, what do you hold?
Should I feel bad that I'm doing that now? Because here is Ensign Duke.
Yes. Nice. Okay. So you had Ensign Duke immediately. I was thinking of the 2 guys from Planet of the Apes, the 2 actors, and they became red shirts. Okay. And as soon as the series got canceled, they became repurposed as red shirts. And Cornelius also became a crew member. And that took some engineering because I had to get the boots mounted on the Cornelius. I had to get the Cornelius upper on the Star Trek lower because the boots were fixed.
It's surprising to nobody, though, that you were doing this even back then.
Oh, my God.
Now, Dr. MEGO can hook you up with a lot of red shirts.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Now I'm thinking
is that just a Duke head on a Star Trek body?
No, this is just a Duke. The boots are black boots.
Is that Bo or Luke Duke?
I don't remember.
Luke.
That would be Bo.
Luke?
It's Bo, I think.
Yeah, Bo is the blonde.
Oh, right.
I was taking every MEGO head sculpt I could and turning it into like a generic human astronaut for the Planet of the Apes. Or so like Steve Stovall has. I had an ape army. I was obsessed with apes, but I wanted to have like a lot of humans to fight the apes.
Yep.
And so I used to like take every unique head sculpt and I turn them into a savage.
There were a lot of lame MEGO figures that became Tarzan. Tarzan was the worst ever with the body, the flesh colored bodysuit, and then the loincloth. And that got thrown right away, and he went into a red shirt.
So I know Steve was having technical difficulties earlier, but he is back with us. You were in the middle of telling us approximately how many Apes MEGO figures you have. I know it's a staggering number.
I think of the Soldier Apes, because the Soldier Apes is really the only ones to keep multiples of. You only need like one Cornelius and one Dr. Zaius and that, but you can never have too many Soldier Apes. So I think the last time I had them out and counted, I had either 40 or 50 Soldier Apes.
Oh my God!
I've seen pictures of this set. It's awesome.
I would like to see a battle between.
I've been to Steve's house and I've seen it. It's amazing.
I'd like to see a battle between Steve's Soldier Apes and Daryl's Intruders.
I think I only have 25 Intruders.
Well, they're bigger.
Steve, that's amazing. That's insane.
Steve, you set it up with the whole Forbidden Zone playset and the horses. You set up the whole thing, right? I've seen pictures of it.
I set the whole thing up on and I'll probably do it again next year when we have the Kentucky show and set it up again. But yeah, I set it up on a dining room table and had the tree houses set up, and added stuff to them to some different accessories or stuff to add to it. And then I guess Classic TV Toys now makes some different ape uniforms that you can get some different colors. So I've added some different characters into it. So that's
some rank markings too. So you could differentiate them a little bit. How many mounted ones do you have? Those are the really fierce ones. Those are the scary dudes.
I think I had about 4 maybe guys on horseback.
That's good.
You know,
that'll run down your average.
They made a motorized stallion that actually walked.
Oh yeah. Well, Steve, if you have a picture of that, send it because we'll definitely throw it up on the website. That's awesome.
And I took an Action Jackson and made him into Taylor, and then took a Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz and made her into Nova.
Nice.
So I had them in the cage, and then MEGO made a neat little line called I think it was like 1 million BC.
Yeah.
That had little caveman figures, so they became like the other human figures.
Yes.
And so I made so I made some of the accessories that they didn't make for MEGO that they had in the movie, like they had like a little rack where they had the humans hanging by their feet from it. So I set that up and made one with that. So it's with the monkeys posed in front of them with the captured humans. And I think somebody looked at it and said, "Is that really a MEGO accessory?" I'm like, "Yeah, MEGO didn't make that. That's a little intense for that." But it's been fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I took one of the things I took was MEGO made a line of a girl figure, Dynamite. Yep. And they used that Planet of the Apes tree house for her and made it a beach house. So it's got these weird, trippy 70s colors and stuff. Yeah, so I set that up and made that for Cornelius and Zira, their little love shack, so they could hang out over there. So they had their own tree house that they could hang out in. It was fun. It's fun.
So Steve, I'm going to hold you to it. Like next Kentuckiana show, I want to see that. So we'll go over to your house.
Yeah, after the show, come over to the house and you'll see the setup and see the other things. The amazing thing is I've done it. I think I've done it twice, and knock on wood, nobody's bumped the table and knocked the monkeys down because they're not on stands; they're freestanding. And the first time I set it up, you get 30 of them, and one of them falls over, and they all go over like dominoes because they're marching.
Yeah. Okay, excuse me, Steve. I just want to say we find the term monkey offensive, but anyway.
they're apes.
Okay,
actually,
they're apes, please be respectful.
The soldiers are gorillas, so
exactly.
We'll go with that.
Which are apes, not monkeys.
Exactly.
Those MEGOs are notorious for not being well balanced. So if you can get 40 of them to stand up,
for those
not
who
well
don't
balanced, and there's that whole like bat thing.
Yeah.
That's funny. I've learned that's a type 1 problem.
Yeah, it is a type 1 problem.
Stand up better.
Yep.
So
there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of ape figures out there that just yes. I actually use I have a few that I've had on display. I use those little clear plastic Hasbro elastic bands between the legs.
A good idea.
To get them to at least look like they're standing normally and not trying to do a split. So
I was going to say, for those who don't know, so Steve runs the Kentuckiana G.I. Joe show, and it was one of the only toy shows in the country to actually happen. When was it, Steve? Last month?
The end of July.
The end of July, and it was in Louisville, and it was awesome. You have built an awesome show, my man. And after so many months of being kind of quarantined and sequestered,
I appreciate it.
To actually be with live people, all wearing masks, all compliant, it was great. But it was a fantastic show. So look forward to going back.
It was a fun time. Yeah, absolutely.
But wait, if we're going to talk about collecting, we certainly got to talk about our pals from Fanboy Collectibles. check those guys out this week. If Todd didn't get them all, Hot Toys, Marvel, Avengers, Endgame, Black Widow, 6/1/6 scale figure, that is in stock. Check it out.
It's a great figure.
And another guaranteed pre-order for Todd is the Hot Toys Ahsoka Tano that went up for pre-order just today.
Oh, did that? I didn't even see it.
Yep.
Is it in here?
It's
at the
on
top
the front
of the page.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, there's that, and there's a Clone Trooper deluxe figure. Barry's,
Mandalorian
are
Trooper.
you getting the Mandalorian skinny Stormtrooper?
He's going to be here Friday. When this show goes up, he will be in my grips.
There is a absolutely phenomenal Batman statue on here, a Hush Batman statue, that I did something that I have never done before with Troy. I sent Troy an email and said that if I ever tell you to pre-order this item for me, assume that I've gone off my meds and ignore it. Because this is gorgeous. It's also huge, and it's not something I have room for, but damn, this thing is beautiful.
Somebody needs it. If you buy it, let us know.
Yes.
Diamond stuff. There's a Kotobuki Darth Maul. Everything you need. Fanboycollectibles.com. Check them out, or go to the store in Newtown, Connecticut. Tell them the Regular Joe sent you. I'm just throwing random questions out there. What's the last thing you bought that's added to your collection? Darryl, we'll go with you because you probably could list 1,000 things.
Oh man, I could. I'm gonna hold it up. So I shared this with Todd. This is a Magnus the Robot Fighter.
Cool.
Volume 1 from the Dark Horse Archives. So this is back when Gold Key they published Magnus the Robot Fighter in the 1960s. I've been going back. I've become addicted, thanks to Todd, actually. These hardback comic book archives, they're so awesome, and I wanted to read the Magnus, the Magnus pieces. So Volume 1 is actually a pretty painful volume to acquire because they're actually around $100 now. So I had to bite the bullet and get that off eBay, but now I can go back and read from front to back the Magnus archives. So that's good.
Magnus, for those of you who don't know, is basically he kind of lives in the Terminator future where there's these evil robots that have taken over and humans are on the run, and it's a good time. I loved it. It's a
good time when humans are on the run, folks.
That's it. I'm telling you. But I loved it as a kid. I remember buying those. And
so Todd, did you like the Valiant update, when the Valiant first did it and kind of changed it a little bit and gave the robots some personality and feelings?
I tried it, but I think it was more for me. It was more driven by nostalgia, so that wasn't so much that didn't connect as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Steve, I did like the Valiant update, and I'm gonna go to part 1B. Sorry, Dave. I know it drives you crazy when I do this, but part 1B of this is
Todd.
I acquired the going back to get the Gold Key archives, the Dark Horse published. It reminded me of something that I had in my collection from years ago, back when I was working on a G.I. Joe DVD movie, G.I. Joe Valor versus Venom. I worked with an art director on that DVD, a guy named Art Nichols, and we just struck up a conversation, and we started talking about comic books and comic books we liked. Well, it turns out he drew some of the Valiant
cool.
Magnus Revival, and he gave me one of his pages. So I've treasured this in my collection. It's an original page that he addressed to me. It's really, it's really very cool.
Oh, that's sharp.
So I'll take a picture and send it to you guys. And but thanks Art. So that kind of ties the new Magnus together with the vintage Magnus.
Very cool. Sean, latest thing in your collection.
So I'm going to break the rules. I got 2, but the first one's real quick.
That's fine, Todd.
It took me quite some time. Yeah, I know. It took me quite some time for this pre-order to come through, but the Select Iron Giant is about like an 8-inch figure, and it is so articulated and amazing. A few years back, somebody came up with a $300 Iron Giant, and this is probably as good, and it's like 1/10 of the cost. Look it up, find it, because it's well worth it. But what really got me I never thought I would be an animation cell collector. And then something Barry said in a show a couple of years ago. I was in Newfoundland, sitting in a beautiful little B&B in Bonavista, and I jumped on eBay and just had a look around, and I found some cells from One Crazy Summer, which is not Better Off Dead, but it's the next movie by Savage Steve Holland, which has a beautiful animated opening. And I was buying 4. There was an eBay auction, and it says 1 of 4 cells. So I figured I'd just buy one, pick the cell I wanted, and it'd be great. And there were some really good ones there. And so I bought the auction, and it turns out it was all 4, and it was $65, and I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
But so that started something. And a few weeks ago, I looked up something I never thought I would, and I actually won Uhura from the animated series in one of the most beautiful facial photos that they reuse everywhere in that show. Mostly when she's on the bridge. There's one point at which she actually takes control of the Enterprise because the captain's incapacitated. Yep. And this is the cell in which she declares she's taking control of the Enterprise. And I got it for a song. I couldn't believe it. And this, I think I've just started collecting cells.
That's awesome.
So this cell is not just a cell, but the backing. It's hard to see, but the backing, which is the original pencil drawing they make the cell from, is also on there, signed, numbered. It is directly off the production floor. So
congratulations! That's incredible.
I could not believe my luck, and it's Uhura. So she's one of the best people ever.
That's great.
That's awesome.
That's the really most recent thing in a collection of things I was not until now collecting.
That's how it starts.
Is that
you, Barry? You started it.
Are these your show and tells? Because we were going to do show and tells. That wasn't necessarily this question, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I kind of didn't know what order things were going. I could definitely.
Neither do we.
I could find another show and tell.
I think.
Well, let's go to you, Jim. What about you?
I have better show and tells, but the last thing my collection kind of bleeds over to the 80s a little bit. So
the old. I need to bleed into something else. I recently
bought one of the worst action figures I have ever seen. It is Sting from Dune.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Awesome. This is his action feature. And I'm just like, why did this get made? Who thought this line would be something that kids would want to buy?
But you know what, Jim?
And I had to.
We joke all the time, but there are collections that sort of bleed into each other. And I know you're a big music guy too. So the fact that that's not just from a horrible movie from a great book, but it's a music figure.
Yeah.
So that's
I also
awesome.
have a Funko of Sting from when they did the Police recently. So yeah,
I might need that.
I just kind of wonder why did this line get made? And I know
but now's the time to get that
everybody,
stuff.
Because you'd be surprised. Some of the stuff, the sandworms are crazy expensive.
Who made Dune? I'm not sure.
I think it's LJN. I need to look it up. But
it looks like an LJN figure.
It does look like an LJN thing.
But now's the time to get Dune stuff because once the new movie comes out, I think the old stuff prices go up.
A friend of mine had the sandworm, and it's really nice.
He and Rabbit are like the two cheap figures.
Yeah.
Everyone else is like $40.
Did they make Picard? Wasn't he in it?
Yes,
he was. He was Gurney Halleck.
Yes, and I have not seen his figure.
Do you remember
but you could easily make one from a Playmates card.
I have at least 24 Picards upstairs in the attic. I'll make you one.
My favorite line that Sting way over emphasizes and overacts on is "I will kill him." It's great.
Yep.
That was
I haven't watched Dune in a long time, but
if you could find the sandworm, it is really nice.
Yeah, I've seen it.
That's what I tell all the ladies.
That's what I love about collecting that little period of time is that everyone was chasing the Star Wars money and they were throwing everything at the wall.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I love about 70s toys and what I hate about today's toys.
But
the Spice Carriers
could make
rather
a
nice
commercial version of a movie based on that book. I mean, that whole thing was so flawed.
Well, it's been done twice, and it's going to be done a third time soon.
No, I know, but I'm just saying David Lynch as a director was not the right choice to make that movie.
I saw the movie before I read the books, and I really liked it, except for the whole Baron thing. That was a bit weird, but I really loved the look, the feel, the mood was beautiful. And if you watch the sci-fi 4-hour version, it's actually much better.
I've heard that.
Okay, it almost makes Willow bearable. Okay, Steve.
Don't get me started on Willow.
Steve, what was the last thing? One of the last things you just got for your collection? Any collection?
Well, amazingly enough, these just came in today. It's the new MEGO monsters. So this is
nice.
Yeah.
That's Sly.
That's Wave 8, Steve. The new wave.
This is Wave 8. Yeah.
With
then this is
and
Mr. Hyde. Dr.
They
Jekyll.
look bigger. Are they bigger, or are they just the angle? And those are the actual MEGO redone MEGO guys. Oh, cool.
Where do you find those, Steve?
We actually sell them. So my brother and I, we get them directly from the distributor. So we got we got 130 MEGOs in today. So now I will keep the monsters, but some of the other stuff, like they did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and they did Hannibal Lecter, and then the Picard and Data, and I forget what else.
There's Stan Lee. Isn't Stan Lee in that wave?
We didn't buy. Yeah, that's the only one in the wave that we didn't get a box of. We decided. I didn't think I could sell 24 Stan Lees. I think I could
probably sell 2,400 Stan Lees.
There's been a lot of Stan Lee things in the last few months.
Sure.
I think that market may hit saturation very soon.
Well, and the fact that we don't have any comic book shows around here anymore. We used to set up a couple of local comic book shows, and if we were still doing that, I would grab Stan Lee's, because I think the shows that we go and set up for. I know we can always move monsters, and Star Trek moves pretty good too.
Yeah.
All right, but the three of us don't need to go. We do this on a weekly basis.
Yes.
Where are we? Barry, you had a question.
Sean actually kind of tripped over it there when he was showing us the animation cell, but we're always talking about how we're terrible influences on each other, and we're constantly the cause of each other buying things. And I'm guessing that between the four of you guys, there's stuff that you own that is a direct result of us in some way, shape, or form. So do you guys all have something that you could point to that you only own because of our bad influence?
I could do that easily. That's what got me back into the trading cards. For the Raiders of the Lost Ark and Battlestar Galactica and stuff like that. I forget. I think Barry. I think if you had some maybe like a set or something. Or somebody.
Yeah. We had got them at a show where the guy was selling packs of all those different movies.
Original sealed, trading cards.
Yeah, so that's why I've got like the whole set in a box and then one sealed pack with each of them. And so I think it was from seeing some stuff you guys did caused me to do that.
And that was early on in the show, but I remember too because that guy. We joked that he had like this very pretty girl held captive working at his booth.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah, she seemed like she was a prisoner at his booth, but yet he was selling all these packs of 80s movies trading cards. So we never rescued her, but we could buy some cards.
Anyone else? Jim, what about you?
I have a Hot Toys Doctor Strange that I have not taken out of the box because Todd said it was cool.
It is cool. It is a superb figure, and you will enjoy it at the time you ultimately do.
I need to buy a couple of glass display cases for some of the stuff like that.
I know Jim also has a Mac vehicle, mobile action command vehicle in his collection that came from me a couple of months back.
Yeah, that was for my 70s collection, yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Sean's got the One Crazy Summer animation cells. I know that.
Well, that's true. And that one, so the One Crazy Summer animation cells are definitely straight up due to you, Barry. But, a lot of my G.I. Joe collecting came from Todd and Dave's early photo stories. And those inspired me so much I started making my own. But, I blame you three for a hell of a lot of what I own.
Oh, good. It's not, we're not only destroying our lives.
Sean, you spent a good bit of my money, too. So
I realize I've thrown a few things your way as well.
Comes around,
yeah. That's true, too.
Yep.
Daryl's holding something up.
I blame, this is the Barbasol Jurassic Park prop replica that not only did I buy it from Barry, but I blame you guys for wanting me, me wanting it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Because I probably wouldn't be as interested in prop replicas as I am because of, it's directly because of you guys. And you guys, Dave, especially you talking about it every week. The PropReplica forum.
Thank you.
And
Daryl, I just found something going through a box of stuff that I'm going to give you next time I see you. But when I bought that originally, the guy gave me the asset tag from the movie that went with that. And I just found it. So I have that now to give to you as well.
They're making that I think someone's making that commercially now.
Yep. Somebody is, but I don't think it ever came out. I have not seen it come out.
Really?
Sean's got something else that is my fault, I think.
Yeah, I'm not really a weapon collector, but once a few years ago, Dave approached me and said, "Hey, you've got a 3D printer. Do you think you can make a compensator from the John Wick movie to fit on the H&K? What is this, Dave? A P90 or something? P90." And so to make it for him, I had to buy one, so I make sure it fit.
I didn't really ask him to do that, but
no, it doesn't. It's okay because then later I bought the Alien Pulse Rifle airsoft pistol and several. I think at least Todd has one, and so
we all.
In fact, I have it because
we kind of
you
feed
suggest.
Each other's.
I have exactly. In fact, it's right there.
Yep, it's on the wall over your head.
Yep. And
I still haven't fired mine, but I still have it. It's beautiful though.
Todd, yours is airsoft too?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Even if the thing didn't work, it's still one of the nicest movie props ever.
And I will tell you this: I've had several airsoft guns. I have never had one that shot with the velocity of this thing. I have both removed pesky wildlife and
we don't condone that, people.
And broken and basically embedded a pellet in sheetrock, which I didn't think was possible from like 25 feet away.
Dang.
And I had to patch that and paint it. So
we are each other's enablers.
This is true.
Yeah, that's part of this.
That's definitely true.
I remember going through shows and it'd be like, you need this and you need this and you need this. There was always a lot of that.
Yeah.
Always a lot of that.
Well, it was good to know we had each other's backs too. Always helping each other get what they needed.
Again, you can do this in a vacuum, but it's also, it is really more fun doing it. I've mentioned this before, but I can remember when I met Daryl for the first time face to face, like the first thing we did is compare each other. We were doing room to room trading, and we looked at each other's lists and decided that neither of us were significantly looking for any of the same things. And I think at that moment we decided we could be friends. And then we just spent the whole rest of the night looking for stuff. It's like, did you see that one? He's got that thing in your list. And it was like, bazooka. Yep. Green Beret bazookas. He's got 3 of them. And
is that when I borrowed your pants?
Yep. It was a subsequent year, but yes.
But when you think about it, at the time, Daryl was living in San Diego. So we were literally coast to coast across the entire country. We would have never met each other if it hadn't been for these conventions that we went to.
It was a timing thing because
totally
we all went online around the same time. We met each other online. We had this kind of pre-relationship thing. And then when we met in person, it was anyways.
I mean, I went to the Dallas show, and I think I've gone to 2. I went to the Providence one, which I met you guys at, and I went to the Dallas one. But I think the fondest memory I have, and this is all down to you 3, is I was sitting in my hotel room. You guys knocked on the door, and you had brought some box full of stuff you'd gotten off the table, and there were some classic pieces in there that I never would have if it wasn't for you guys. Yep. And you just kind of walked in and said, "Hey, guys, here, have this." It was amazing. So thanks for that.
Yeah, we borrowed a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. I was going to say something else, but
I have some of that now.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we sort of just did it, but why don't we do a round of show and tell of what people have brought to show and tell, and I think we're going to partake in that as well. But let's go clockwise as I see everybody, which none of you know. Todd.
Okay.
Showing it. So we something collectible. We asked the regular Joes for something that is sort of not in the norm for us. Did anyone follow that?
Okay. Well, I'm going to grab something else then. Yeah. Good.
It's not another. We don't want to see another hot toy.
It's not going to be another. We're taking a week off from hot toys. Anyways, so I got a new workspace, and in my office there's a set of shelves that were just barren, and nobody really has books anymore. So I looked at this and I said, you know what this office needs is more robots. So I have a set of shelves that is just dedicated to robots. And I don't know if this guy's ever going to make it onto the shelves.
Oh, I have that.
But because
Nice.
you know,
I got
I've got
last
the
week.
Vincent figure is representative of this film, and it seems odd having two. But damn, this is a cool figure.
Wow.
Where's that from?
And
that just came out recently.
It just came out.
That's from the same series as my Iron Giant. It's a new select set.
No one gives a crap about the black hole.
It's still,
I do.
It is
I
still
do.
very,
no
very
one but
cool.
Sean gives a crap about the black hole.
I love that movie, and I'll talk to you about it for 4 hours later if you want.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that off the show.
I gotta say, I've rewatched it a couple times since it's on Disney Plus, and it is a fascinating movie. And I think we should talk about it at length sometime.
We've been talking about it.
Part of what amazes me is that they made a lot of the choices that they did when they did.
Was that 79 or 80?
That's going to be a drinking show if we do it.
Yeah,
Does
no,
that
I
fit
think
into
we should because
our 1980 year.
It's I used to say when I had a Saab, I used to say that Saab wanted the people at Saab wanted to build a car, but they had never seen one. Okay, and that explained the Saab. And I kind of feel this way about the black hole. It's like they wanted to make a science fiction film, but they had not watched anything in recent years, because this is a lot more of a 50s film than it is a contemporary for its era. So,
and I rewatched it a couple of years back, having not seen it since I was a kid, and actually was kind of along for the ride until it just abruptly ends for no reason.
Oh, there's many.
Yeah, but that's exactly like 2001. The ending, I always relate to the ending back. I know. I always relate the ending back to 2001 because it suddenly just goes off the rails and does something completely ridiculous, almost negating what was until then.
But you can understand
I would
60s
say
filmmaker doing that.
2001 was, not to be that episode, but 2001 was interesting choices. I think Black Hole was just okay.
But 2001 was also an art film at its
That's
core.
what I'm saying.
Well, I just finished watching Barbarella too, so that was an art film.
Oh,
Black Hole was made
just
by
came on
Disney.
what, Netflix? Did it just come on Netflix or Prime or one of those? It just came on. It's a classic.
Which?
Barbarella.
Yeah, I caught it on TV on my DVR by accident, so I don't know what channel it was on. Though.
It's on Prime right now.
It just came on Prime. You need to watch it on because you need the nude scenes.
If you're a fan of Flash Gordon, of the Flash Gordon movie, you really got to watch this because it's the same producer, and it's so similar that you realize Flash Gordon could never have happened if Barbarella hadn't happened first.
I have to rewatch that.
Anyway,
I've never seen Barbarella, so I'm going to watch it.
Jane Fonda
it's
in
worth
her absolute.
You got
God
it, Barry.
bless Roger Vadim. That's all I
At
gotta
least
say.
once, Barry. You gotta.
Yeah.
I think she looks even better in barefoot in the park, but she's not naked in like weird leather in that movie.
But they
Anyway,
go completely
that would have been
campy.
a different movie if she was.
They go completely campy in exactly the same way Flash Gordon does.
Yeah, I agree with that. So,
all right, we're going
maybe
around
another episode. Go
clockwise. I'm next. Here's something that I realized I collect. That's sort of the me and Pam collection. That's not really in our genre, but we collect artists made cats from places we visit, which is weird. But this is a copper. See the copper? This is a copper cat that an artist made. We got in Puerto Rico. This is one of a dozen. This is a ceramic one that was made by an artist in Belize. We got this in Belize. Cool. This is I don't know what this is. I think it
looks like a Bastet figure.
Yeah. This, I think, is from either Alaska or Mexico. There's another cat. There's at least a dozen others. But I was trying to say something that's not the typical thing. So we collect cats from wherever we go.
Dave, would you like to show us your spoon collection?
I do have.
Or your vagina?
Oh, Barry.
You want me to go through some of the stuff you have?
No, I really don't.
Yeah, let's talk
I'm
about
laughing
some
so
movies
hard
you
here.
like, Barry.
I like my cats.
I know you do. No, and that's one of the things that continuously surprises me is how warm your heart is for animals, but not people.
No, yeah. as the world right now shows you, people are not worth caring about.
True. Okay. It's true.
Yeah.
Animals are.
Well, I have 3 real cats, so I collect those too.
I love cats.
The cats are the best. I love cats.
And at 10:12, the show went off the rails. Okay.
No, it didn't. We're going to Jim. Jim, what do you got for us?
All right. If you know me, I'm a big fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
That is correct.
And they show a lot of movies with a lot of stuff in it. Some of them are kaiju. So here we have 12-inch camera from
yes.
Medicom, and there's a G.I. Joe body inside.
Yes.
Oh, whoa, back up.
That's Mini Gamera, which was a Takara product. There's a Microman figure inside.
Go back to the 12-inch Gamera for a second, though.
Gamera, Protector of Children, or something like that, right?
Is that from the same line that the Godzilla?
Yes.
Todd, you still have that, right? We have it.
I love that.
I didn't know
so
they made a
awesome.
Gamera. That's awesome.
I didn't either until I was at the Dallas show last year, and the guy had. I'm like, I gotta have this.
They're old. They're from like the 2000s.
About 2000. I picked up the little one at a Joe show.
Yep.
Steve, I think you were with me when we bought it. And
Florida, wasn't it? It was the one in
I think
Disney.
so.
Yeah.
These guys came out in
Because I got the Godzilla.
2010. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know they had the. I need one of those.
They're kind of pricey now, but they weren't then. But
Yeah.
for me, pricey's like $50. So for you, that's probably.
Oh, that's
it.
I'll spend that on a cat without thinking.
Or a spoon.
Or a spoon.
And I watched 4 of the 5 Gamera movies that Mr. Science Theater 3000 did in the last couple of days. So.
Oh yeah, we saw that. If for anyone, Jim is very boisterous on Twitter, so you know. And he says wear a damn mask, and we agree.
About a lot of things.
Yeah.
I agree with almost everything Jim says on Twitter, except when he said something about Rush recently, and I had to call him out for being blasphemous.
I like Rush. I just don't like Rush as much as you do.
Well, nobody does.
No one does.
Who does? I'm Canadian, and I don't like Rush as much as he does.
Yeah. Sean texted me like 6 months ago. It's like, I've never really listened to Rush. What's a good album to start with? I'm like, you're from Canada.
I know, but
other bands
Barry. Literally, I started Rush with the experience of listening to Geddy Lee singing "Take Off" with Bob and Doug McKenzie. That was my Rush experience.
Well, maybe not the best thing to start with.
No.
Anyway, okay, moving right along. Sean, what do you got? What are you showing and telling?
Well, as you know, I kind of blew it earlier with the Uhura thing. But a few years ago, so a bit of history. I'm from Canada, of course, as you know. I'm from Newfoundland, and back in the 80s, they did a comic book called Captain Canuck.
Yes.
And I joined the club. I bought all the comics. They did like 13, 14 issues. I have them all, some of them signed because I was part of the club. I used to write them letters. They actually sent me back like a proof page of some stuff they were doing. And a few years ago, and show and tell doesn't mean it was like recent, I found this, which kind of fits in with what you guys are doing because this is a MEGO-based figure.
Yeah.
But it's a customized MEGO-based figure. And I don't remember who did this exactly, but I kind of happened to find it. On the back is the cover of the first issue of the comic, a rendition of him done later by the second artist who started working on him, and who did the proof I have, by the way. And this is just one of those things that you just got to have this thing. I've got letters from these guys. I've got all sorts of stuff that came from the fan club, from my personal letters and their responses. If I didn't buy this, I would have just, I don't know, I had to buy this. So, like, it kind of fits in with the MEGO thing, but it also is, well, it's very much where I'm from and what I was doing at the time.
It's a Canada thing for sure.
It is very Canadian.
Yeah. Okay. Steve, what about you?
Okay, so what I've got, and Daryl's seen a sneak preview of this. I picked up a collection of photographs from the 1978 sales floor of Hasbro in New York. So there's a bunch of stuff in there, and so it's kind of like their sales floor. But the really key thing in here that was so cool is because, you know, I do the Super Joe website, and 78 was the last year that they did a sales presentation of Super Joe. And in the Super Joe presentation, if you can see that, they had a life-size Super Joe figure and a life-size Gore figure.
Wow.
And that is just cool as heck.
So a life-size Super Joe figure should be about 4.5 feet tall, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, he may well be.
It was, but you can't tell by that photo.
Yeah.
And see, there's another picture of the
That's
Super
amazing
Joe
that they would have spent that kind of money to make those. I guess
Super cool.
Trade
If
show
you could
budgets.
send us pictures of those, that'd be awesome too. If
And then
everyone sends
there's
pictures of their stuff.
There's like the Terron and the cave.
So those are like developed 8x10s. Those aren't even like.
Oh, wait, and then they had the Charlie's Angels was one of the other big lines that they had that year. So they
that's cool. I need that Farrah Fawcett poster.
Yeah. So that is sure. But all the stuff that they had that year is in like I said, there's 46 different photos here, and it's just neat stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's
great acquisition.
I love stuff like that.
Where would that have been? Would that have been the 23rd Street showroom?
It was, because I've got the actual envelope here that the stuff was in, and it says it's the 205th New York City Hasbro showroom.
In the toy building.
Yep.
Yeah, Hasbro Industries, and in the envelope itself, Hasbro Industries Inc., 1027 Newport Avenue, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and then the handwritten on there is Hasbro Showroom 205th NYC.
Yeah, that's
amazing.
Dave,
that
exists. That's before they took over that Home Depot building.
Well, it's now Home Depot.
Yeah. Oh, now it's Home Depot. Oh, yeah.
It's just amazing that exists. I love that.
So cool, Steve.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's neat stuff.
From Hank, here's something nice. Hanging out in the MEGO communities, a paste-up showed up on eBay of a Sonny and Cher playset that was not made. Would have been Sonny's Pizzeria, if you remember the show, was an ongoing skit, and they were going to make a playset of it. It's amazing.
We need that.
I remember the show.
Daryl, what about you?
Oh, I already talked about my Magnus art piece.
Oh, okay.
I brought that together with the archives, so
cool.
I'm not going to show anything more. I'm good.
Barry, you're last. What do you got?
I don't remember if I've ever talked about this on the show or not, and it is something that's from a core collection. It's not cats, but I thought it was relevant to this group of people. So this is a G.I. Joe figure that was made, I don't know, 2004.
Yeah.
This is when another company licensed the rights to be able to make their own G.I. Joe figures, and they made crew cut heads onto the
Dreams and Visions.
I've got two of those.
The company.
Beautiful.
This is the Air Force police figure. And why this one is specifically relevant to this group of people is that a friend of all of ours named Scott Beckman was the model for this figure. And the uniform tag actually says Beckman on it.
Wow.
And this is one that Scott sent me that he signed. So to Barry, thanks for being my pal, Scott Beckman. This was my favorite of that whole. They did 4 different figures, one from each branch of the military, and I always thought this was kind of the coolest one too. So these were really, really cool figures. These were a little bit more highly detailed than anything that Hasbro was doing at the time. The packaging was very reminiscent of the 60s Soldiers of the World packaging, and they had the crew cuts, which was just really super cool. So that's my show and tell.
Well, the other cool thing is on the back they had the Andy and George cartoon from the old.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Now, and just like the vintage Joes, the shrink wrap on these is actually squishing the box.
Yeah,
that's right.
So I've been tempted to cut it, but because Scott signed the shrink wrap, I'm not going to do it.
Don't do it. So those are becoming more valuable. So Barry, I actually had to approve those, and I remember Dreams and Visions coming to me and saying, we want to do a crew cut G.I. Joe. And kind of the moment you're faced with is, well, that's unprecedented. That's never happened, right? That's a violation of that vintage Joe head. And then I thought, what do we got to lose?
When I actually, because I was somewhat connected to all of that back in the day, I remember the woman, Linda, that ran that. And she
Linda
was actually,
Lum.
She was super cool, very nice. And she really loved this stuff too, which was nice to see that she wasn't just doing it as like a money grab. She really cared about it. So that was kind of cool too.
Well, okay. So I'm going to go off script here, Dave. And I will say that when Dreams and Visions showed those crew cut G.I. Joes for like pre-sales or whatever, they made some 1-to-1 scale mannequins of G.I. Joe. Linda called me a few years ago when I was still in Rhode Island and said, "Do you want one of these mannequins?" And she said, "I need to make room in my garage. Come over and get it if you want it." So I drove down to Connecticut, and I have one of those.
Oh, cool.
But it's missing. It turns out it's missing one of the hands. And everybody knows the original 1960s, before the Kung Fu Grip G.I. Joe hands. You know, one, you've got this kind of nose picker hand, and the other one is this like full hand. It's missing one of the hands, so I don't have it on display. But I have the 1-to-1 scale model of that, Barry.
Is it dressed or?
No, you can just get an off-the-shelf uniform to fit it. It's like a standard mannequin.
Yeah. Were the hands made to match the G.I. Joe hands?
The hands were made to match the original G.I. Joe hands. So I've only got one of the hands.
With a mannequin hand.
Yeah, I reached out to Linda and I said, "Hey, I just opened my box after all these years after you gave it to me." And I said, "It happens to be missing a hand. Do you have another hand somewhere?" So they're going to get back to me. They're looking for that. And if I do get it complete, I'll set it up in my display room.
That would look awesome.
Daryl, several years ago, I was at Brimfield and I saw a life-size G.I. Joe figure, and it was a life-size USS Connecticut crewman, which was okay. And I was like, which obviously was like a display from somewhere. And they had a replica of the uniform that said G.I. Joe and the name tag and stuff like this. And the head wasn't great, but it was okay. And it was just like wearing the poopy suit and stuff.
I think that was made to show at the 90, I think it was the 96 G.I. Joe convention down in Florida. Okay. I remember seeing it. If that was 96 when that came out, it might have been a little later than that. But I remember seeing it, and actually my friend Ray Alma, who you guys know, saw that at Brimfield too and sent me pictures of it.
Yeah. Well, what do you think that didn't sell for?
$1,000.
It was $5,000.
Yeah. No.
One of a kind. 5,000 is like, you were out of your mind.
Totally out of your mind.
Yep.
That's crazy. Well, this was fun. Believe it or not, we've been almost an hour and 25 minutes. So we'll have to do this again. We appreciate you guys coming on and sharing with us your collections, and we certainly send us pictures. There's a lot of cool stuff. We personally can go on all night. I don't know if the listeners actually really want to listen to any of this crap, but
I have some thoughts about Star Wars that I would like to share with you all.
And it's been great talking to you guys.
Most of our listeners are on the show with us.
Yeah.
Which is true.
If you want to proclaim hate for The Last Jedi, we can go another 20 minutes. We can certainly do that.
No, I think maybe we just leave that alone.
Yeah.
Anyway,
the best.
I agree with you. We're all looking forward to the next season of Mandalorian, Jim.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
And with that, I don't know what order we're doing it in, but I know I'm going first. Thanks for listening.
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 Welcome to the Regular Joe's podcast. I'm Dave Pisani.
I'm staring at Todd as if I'm thinking he's going next.
All right.
Todd never goes next.
Holy shit.
Okay, just to be clear on this, 350 episodes, people. I have always been third. Okay.
Jesus Christ! I swear to God, I locked up. I don't know what happened. Do it again, Dave.
How can Todd do that awkward pause if he's not last?
I know.
I tend to cut Todd's awkward pauses out, and I think it's more of a lag than a pause.
It's a lag.
Welcome to the Regular Joe's podcast. I'm Dave Pisani.
And I'm Barry Kay. I just want to make sure I got it right. You got it right this time.
Oh, you know what? These are good outtakes. So
okay, go.
The funny thing is, this happens more than you guys would realize, and we just got this stuff out.